And you're listening to a Token Nerd Network podcast. 3, 2, 1. Where we ramble on about geeky things. Things ranging from Batman to pop figures to Star Wars.
From Token Nerd Podcast.
Stay spicy, my friends.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Token Nerd Podcast, where we ramble on about geeky things ranging from Batman to pop figures to Star Wars. I'm Anthony Pettiford, and we have back again
Guess who's back?
the co-host
Tell a
of
friend.
the UVD Weekly Wrap-Up, Benjamin.
Peace. Let's get ready to rumble.
All
Not
right.
yet a father.
Yeah, not yet a father, and I'm starting to understand that I probably will lose the bet. I'm pretty sure at this point that Ben's child will not come before Thor Ragnarok.
I have insider knowledge, though.
You want to share?
Well, with Jill's doctor appointment today, we were told it could come any day now.
Really?
So you're back in the running.
Oh, joyous day. What if it came on Halloween? That would be nuts. Okay, so that will lead us into... Okay, that leads us into today's episode, episode 57. We're going to call this episode... I'm bouncing still. It's either Nightmare on Memory Lane or The Nightmare Before Disney.
Whichever way you go, this is yours.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll go the Nightmare on Memory Lane. That's the one. Okay, so it's a Halloween-themed episode. I leave for Disney. I go to Orlando tomorrow afternoon, so this will probably post the day I leave. So I'm going to go down. Me and Abby, who has been on the podcast before, we're going to go to the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. Or Not
Sounds
So
romantic.
Spooky. Oh, yeah. So tonight, we are a little bit behind because obviously you get to dress up, but Disney has its codes that you're not allowed to... You're not allowed to have masks on. You're not allowed to, like, outdo their cast. So obviously you can't have, like, a full, extensive costume because we were going to be... the characters from Moana. I think I've told you this before, but for people who don't know, I was gonna be. Oh goodness, what's the crab? The crab's name in Moana? Can't not remember off the top of my head.
Sparkles.
Basically, yeah. But the I'm so shiny, that thing.
Yeah.
So I had this whole idea of how I was gonna make it. I was gonna use the classic turtle shell costume that you used to do when you were kids, where you'd have the straps and like a pan on your back. And I was going to put like
You could have gotten one of those Ninja Turtle backpacks and done it that way.
Yeah, but I would have to hollow it out because I had to have the tap light in the center to reflect things. I had this whole idea.
I thought your reason was you didn't want to desecrate a turtle backpack.
Oh, no. I would definitely have done it just for the sake of, because I thought it was a great idea. But we bounced around different ideas. We're going to do Max and Roxanne from the Goofy movie.
Okay.
That didn't work out. We were going to be... Maui and Moana. I decided that was not going to work. We just bounced around. Finally, I decided on the greatest costume of all time.
And it got voted down.
Yeah, it got voted down. Vetoed hardcore. I was going to be Sorcerer Mickey. I had the whole idea of what I was going to do. I was going to make the whole robe, the hat, because I want to have the hat just... I think it would be a nice little prop to have in a studio. But I was going to have the Sorcerer Mickey costume, big fingers and everything, and then she was going to be my broom. So I was going to give her an 8.
Like I said when you pitched this sounds like Homestar Runner and Marzipan.
Yeah. But no, so it would be, bum, ba-dum, dun, and I would be dancing around and she'd just be carrying a bucket. It would be great. But then she vetoed it almost instantly.
Like I think she turned it back on you and you're like, no.
Yeah, she then said, well, how about I be Sorcerer Mickey and you be a broom? And I was like, no, that doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way at all. What we could have done is we probably could have done like a Sorcerer Mickey and Minnie and that would have played out, but nah.
It's not true to the canon.
No, he's got to stay on it. So what we ended up doing is we are from Chippendale Rescue Ranger. It was a spin-off series of the Chippendale Disney characters. where they team up with another mouse named Gadget and another mouse named Monterey Jack, and they go on little adventures. And so Gadget is who she's going to be, and I'm going to be Chip from Rescue Rangers. So I've spent the last several, I want to say weeks, but it's really been days, hunting down.
What do you have against Dale, though?
Huh?
You said you want to be Chip, but not Dale.
Yeah, Chip.
But what do you have against Dale?
Nothing against Dale. It was the fact that there's more flirtation going on between Chip and Gadget, and so in Abby's mind, it made more sense that way. Plus, when Addison and I were kids and we watched it, Addison was always Dale, and I was always Chip. It's just how the brother thing goes.
So along that, with two of you as players, who is Luigi?
Oh, I think I always ended up being Luigi.
Older brother is usually Mario, but apparently you got.
But here's the silly thing. This is a very Donald Trump thing of me to do. I did it because he was taller. That's why I picked Luigi, and I liked green.
Okay.
And Luigi, yeah, so it was cool to me. Like, I wanted to play the Yoshi's Island with Luigi. I remember we'd lie to each other like, oh yeah, there's a Yoshi's Island 2 somewhere where you're Luigi and you're trying to find Baby Mario, and I was like, yeah, that never happened. But no, so I've been trying to find things to put these costumes together, and I'll post it on our Instagram because we'll be at the Halloween party on Halloween, and we'll be taking pictures and stuff like that. So I will have pictures up online for those of you who care to see what my stress and anxiety has led to. But the reason we are here today is we're going to do our Halloween episode. There is no Eddie. Yeah, no Eddie and no Addison. Luckily, Ben was able to meet me. This is the only gap of time I have before.
Meet you? I was already here.
Yeah. I really raced home from work so I could get this done. But like I said, it's our Halloween episode, so we're going to focus on some spooktacular stories. So what I want to bring up is in your life.
In my life.
In your life. Well, actually, let's talk about this real quick. So do you have a tradition, something that you do every Halloween? Not so much like a party or something, but like you have something that you do specifically in the fall. Not like raking or any like housework, but like something you do for you.
Like honestly, I like to have a pumpkin out, even if it's just like a magic marker on it.
Yeah.
Like it feels Halloween or fall to me to have a pumpkin out on the porch.
No, I agree. I agree completely. For me, along with the pumpkin and dressing up, because it's my excuse to actually do it freely. But my big thing has always been Halloween. The original 1978
movie franchise with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Exactly. Did you know that Jamie Lee Curtis thought she was going to get fired? She thought she was so terrible in it, and she was obviously one of the best
I
parts.
can tell you why. She was having too much Activia.
Way to bring that in. But no, so Addison and I were watching the A&E channel that hosts The Walking Dead. They always have their Fear Fest, and they just play a bunch of scary movies. They do it less and less now. Now it's like you have 6 or 7 different Walking Dead marathons, and you don't get to watch anything classic anymore. But so Halloween played one time. We were 13 at the time. We were, we shared a room at this point, and we were chickens, terrified of watching horror movies. And I'll kind of get into that later on, but watching the Halloween movie was like the big thing that we did. And so we decided we would turn off the lights, we sat on the floor, we turned on the TV, we got a little popcorn, chips and cheese, and and we watched this movie. And I remember thinking, maybe it's cheesy, but at the same time, I was like on edge the entire time. And that just kind of became my thing. Like, it's my favorite horror. I don't even want to call it a slasher film because it really isn't. Though it started the idea of a slasher film, kind of. It was an independent film back in 1978, and it was the highest grossing. They filmed it in, I believe, I kept seeing it as 30, but it's like 26 or 21 days they did the whole movie in. But what I was reading is they decided that for the movie, the dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, that theme song, they would play it randomly through the movie. So that at different points, the crowd would hear the music and they think, okay, something's going to happen, and then the scene would just end. Or it would they'd just be driving in a car and that's it, like just to throw you off. So you're never really aware of when it's gonna come, and then the music plays again. You're like, they're just gonna drive in the car. And, oh my god! They threw stuff at you, and I don't know. I liked it because I never fell for the whole Jason thing. I hated Friday the 13th franchise, but something about Michael Myers was really freaky. The fact that he showed that he got hurt, but then he kept trucking through. Yeah, it was pretty freaky. But yeah, my tradition is every year I watch Halloween. It's harder with Abby because Abby is a chicken.
Okay.
Even worse than I ever was. And so she was like, I can't. She tried to get through it, and then the first time the theme song played, she was done. We didn't get past the opening where he killed his sister. So I was like, oh.
So this is like the reverse Jaws. Where
Yeah.
the music plays, the shark
Yeah.
shows up.
Exactly. But yeah, that's my main tradition is that, I think Addison are going to watch it tonight. But yeah, watching Halloween is one of my favorite things to do just because it's, I don't know, I forget what town they're set in. I say I like this movie so much and I forget what town it's in. But it's just to see those old places where everyone is, like when I grew up, Halloween was a thing. Like there were witches and there were pumpkins on everyone's doorsteps. People really went above and beyond. And everyone did it, and now I feel like it's become people barely do it now. Like where I grew up, I drove past there, and there's one pumpkin out on one doorstep. And, people can't trick-or-treat there anymore because obviously you don't go to the houses that don't have pumpkins, and that's a Yellow Springs thing. I think it is most places.
No idea.
No, but yeah, it just seemed, I felt like it's left. The idea of Halloween and stuff like that. So it was cool to kind of be in this movie where, pumpkins are everywhere. It's a big deal, and a killer comes to town. All right. So with that being out of the way, and kind of talking about traditions and junk, we're going to do our main topic for this episode, and that is 3 forms of media. That can be comics, books, movies, TV shows. Nothing real life. We'll save that for another podcast. For example, I hate being in this room that we're in right now. I believe this room is haunted. Abby's apartment is haunted, and I believe this is the epicenter. But that's for another podcast. So what we're going to do is you'll give one, I'll give one, and it's got to be something that has scarred you. Or maybe not so much scarred you, but has left an impact. Something that you still think about today or still scares you to today. Something you've seen in a form of media.
All right. So I guess at the time when, I read Goosebumps books all the time, and it didn't really bother me a whole lot because it's just a book. I can use my imagination. But when they started putting it to the TV shows, it was a little bit weirdo sometimes. But most of those, you have a demented piano teacher or dummy, which is not really that. It's not really that factual for you to get wrapped around. But on Nickelodeon when they did Are You Afraid of the Dark, where it's stuff like that, where it's you're out just camping, you're out just doing something, and you're just victimized or something like that. It's of course I think it was on broad daylight, but it's one of those as the night comes on or as the week passes by and the night comes along, you're just what's behind me sort of stuff.
Yeah, you have to look over your shoulder.
So I think there's that sort of stuff early on.
Okay.
That would have been interesting.
All right, so that's your one. My one will be a movie I still haven't seen yet. This is more of a clip of a movie. So Jeepers Creepers was a monster movie franchise. It's a franchise, technically. There are 3 of them. And there's going to be a 4th one coming out because the director got cleared of his pedophilia, or I forget. He did something with underage kids. And so they've cleared him and he can now make a movie again. Hollywood, right? But anyway, so my stepbrother was home for Halloween, early October, it doesn't matter. And so we were watching, it was back when you could first start playing DVDs on your PlayStation 2, and it was you could, multitask your system. And we were watching this movie that he'd brought, and he said, okay, well, it's scary, and you won't sleep at night, and he built up how terrified I was going to be just by seeing this thing. And I must have been 9 or 10 at the time. And so I just remember watching the beginning, and the beginning of the movie is terrifying because you never see its face. It's broad daylight, but he drives this big truck and he follows them, or he chases after these kids. And the idea is that when he's coming after you, you'll hear the song Jeepers Creepers, where do you keep those? Yeah, and so you'd hear on your radio, and it meant he was coming for you. And so I think it's once a year or once every 25 years, he awakens and feeds on people's tongues and eyes and other things like that. So just the concept of it as a kid was terrifying. And I remember that he was like, "You're gonna see its face, and it's gonna be scary." And he like held me up to watch this. And there's a scene where it looks up and the light flashes on its face, and I just saw it for a brief second, and I looked down, and I left. I left the room, left my grandma's house where we were watching this, and ran home. Could not sleep for weeks. I mean, like, it was so bad that I had to take like a bunch of blankets and I slept on my parents' floor. And like, I mean, eventually now I've like looked at, I've looked at the images of it to realize, oh, he's not so scary. And I've watched Jeepers Creepers 2. It's 3 they're making. 3 they're making, not 4. But I've seen Jeepers Creepers 2, and it was stupid. But like, I just remember being absolutely scared and terrified of something that I had made up in my head. That was this terrifying face that if I saw it, I would never sleep again. And just the thought of it kept me from sleeping. And so I remember actually a couple of times I'd be driving, even now, if I listen, like if I'm like, scanning through channels and they're singing that song, I will hit that radio so hard to turn it off. And I'm just, especially at night, I'll be freaking out. And I'll probably get pulled over because I switch lanes a lot so that nothing can fly above me and land. I try to make it as difficult as possible. Yeah, I got an issue.
Okay.
All right, so number 2.
Number 2, I already used TV, so I guess movie. I don't remember really when The Ring came out, like the original one. And so I think we still had like an analog TV sort of thing where like we didn't have the digital where it doesn't make the static.
Yeah.
And so it like, I think I'd watched either parts of it or the whole thing. And obviously the movie is what it is, but it was like, I think I was working in the other room, like on the computer, and it was like later at night, and they were switching between like an ABC and a dead channel, and it goes, no.
And you start to spaz out. Triggered. But no, I get it. No, I never, once again, I was a chicken when The Ring came out. Do you know how old you were when that came out? I think I was in 5th or 6th grade when that came out.
This might have been middle school or high school.
Okay. Yeah, Ring I didn't even attempt to because everyone told me how like absolutely terrifying it was, and people didn't. But at the time, because it worked, it's age. Kids won't get it now because, I mean, I know kids who have never seen a VCR before. They have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
When I was subbing, it was kind of weird, and I was like, oh, I've hit the level of being old now.
They're never gonna know what it's like to have a TV on a cart be wheeled out.
They'll never know what it's like to track your tapes to clear it through or rewind so you could watch it again. Yeah, Be Kind, Rewind. They'll never know those. Never know them.
Which I only ruined one tape doing that.
Really?
Like I put our Disney Robin Hood in backwards.
Oh.
Which messed it up so that whenever it got to that point, it would start rewinding. So you had to fast forward over it to get to like after that break.
Yeah, we had the Digimon movie, the first movie, and we had put it in and Addison took it out too fast. And the tape got stuck, and we pulled it, and it crinkled, not ripped it up, but crumpled it a little bit.
Yep.
And so whenever we played it, it would hit that one spot, and it would just start to fizz up, and we're just like, oh, it's not perfect anymore. It was absolutely infuriating. Okay, so my number 2 is, oddly enough, something more recent. This was when I was a senior in college. It was Death of the Family. The Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo Batman run. The Joker had, in like early in the year when the New 52 started, he got his face removed, and they left his face and he disappeared. Well, after an exact year, these like promo images started popping up, and it was like the Joker in shadow, and all you see is the skin of his face, and someone was holding it up and looking through one of the eye holes. And I was like, ooh, this is really cool. And so the first issue came out, and it was weird because like with comic books, I don't get the whole horror of comic books. I'm not afraid of comic books. There's gore that I'm like, oh, that's a little bit much for me, and I'm not into. But there was a level of what they were writing, and it was the way I could hear it in my head as I was reading. And it's when you read a Batman story or you've watched Batman growing up, Batman is the confident character. He always has a plan. He always knows what to do. And then it was just this issue of Batman being on like the defensive, like he is always 4 moves behind trying to catch up on 3. And so there's a point where the Joker like comes, and this is the scene that terrified me for some weird reason. It was when the Joker goes into the Gotham City police department, turns off the lights, and then just starts to shoot random people. And then he's talking to Jim Gordon. And it's like, I know about you. I know where you keep your cigarettes. And the idea of the Joker's telling that I've been under your bed. Like, there have been points where I step under your bed and I listen to you sleep. And it was just this creepy feeling. Like, I actually had to look under my bed at one point. Because I was reading in my dorm room, and I was sitting there reading, like, this is freaky. And before I went to bed and turned the light out, I went, I'm going to look anyway. And I looked under the bed, and I was just like, wow, this really scared me. And it was just the idea that this is a terrifying character. And I don't think they've ever done Joker to be that scary before. Even in the animated series, he was the eccentric one, and he did, messed up things, but he was never scary.
Yeah.
But this version was terrifying. At one point, he he tells Batman to skip the formalities. He already took the people that he kidnapped these people and tied them to rocks and then dropped them into the Gotham Bay. And Batman should have said, "It's okay, don't worry, they're already dead. We don't have to do the whole back and forth. You trying to get me and save them? They're already gone." It's like, wow, he's back and he's dark and it's scary, and yeah, that really got me. So that's my number 2. What would your number 3 be?
I know you said that we can only use one of each, which...
No, you don't have to use one of each. You can use
I
multiple.
didn't really read comic books a whole lot, and books didn't really scare me because you're reading the words and you're making your own scaredness anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess as a culmination of movies overall, like it's one of those where like in movies there's like either fog or blah blah blah, and it's like paranormal-ish stuff. So like in real life, whenever I'm just kind of out and about, and like if I'm in an old house or just out, and like obviously like it was hot during the day and it's cool at night, fog starts forming, it's like and then like I'll hear something like
yeah, like
something's
gonna happen.
You can feel like your hair move sometimes, as if there's like a ghost. There's like a ghost somewhere that you just know that in the movies would happen, but in real life you suspect or you hope doesn't happen, and then
but you know it is happening. Yeah, that's why I don't like this room. Yeah. No, I definitely get. A couple of days ago, it was really bad. I was driving back from Dayton to Fairborn, and it was super misty. Yeah, like people were on the highway going, we were 10 miles under the speed limit because it was so bad. No, it is freaky. But so where did this come from? Was this based off a book you read, or just like the overall?
I think it becomes a culmination. I think it goes back to like the Are You Afraid of the Dark? And it's just how movies and TV shows in general just portray like paranormal activity or ominousness when it's just like a fog or like a flashlight or something only goes so far. And then like you can see like the eyes come out of like the trees just beyond the flashlight sort of stuff.
You mentioned Paranormal Activity. So that was my first introduction. I know a lot of people saw the Blair Witch Project, and that was what they know about shaky cam and found footage. So I take it you've seen the Paranormal Activity movies at all, or one of them?
I think I've seen the first one.
Okay. It became a franchise, and it went on to be different and weird. I watched 1, 2, and 3, and I've got to tell you, those movies, no matter how silly they are now and everyone says they're dumb, they scare the crap out of me.
I think the weird thing that I think gets me sometimes is like those movies that say based on actual events, like, oh no, like how much of this is real? Like, what if The Exorcist was like 95% real and someone got like tormented?
The fact that it's like 5% real scares me enough.
Like head spinning around and puke going everywhere, or like the stuff like
The Exorcist of Emily Rose. That was the one that actually has like records on it. Yeah, that no joke. But no, Paranormal Activity was the scary thing because it was, normally like, okay, the old house is haunted, where this was, no, it can be any house. It was a brand new house, and it was like following this one woman. And and then it ended up being like a whole, like they followed her. But the third one, it was like a prequel to the first two.
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, it was filmed on VHS, and just the stuff that happened in that one was freaky because it went on, it like named the thing that killed them and that was haunting them. And I know in CinemaSins on YouTube, if you ever watch it, they review those movies and they're like, why does the ghost spend like 6 days like teasing people? Like, why does it, if he has the ability to kill someone, why does he just do it? He spends all this time, like 8 hours of just like standing or tilting and doing all this crazy stuff. And he just doesn't go for the kill. But yeah, I mean, those movies make it so that I am freaked out to be like, sometimes I don't like leaving my camera on. Like if we're filming, when we used to film the podcast and stuff like that, I'd be freaked out to leave the room. Like if I wasn't there and walk out of the room and come back, I would be terrified because I would think if I watch it, like something's gonna move and I'll never be able to go back in that room again. But no, so yeah, that was not one on my list. But now I think about that, probably should have been on somewhere on there. I'll throw an honorable mention in. This is from an animated series. So the popular anime Dragon Ball Z. I see you roll your eyes. Let me explain for a second.
All right.
So the Cell Saga. So from the Android Saga into the Cell Saga was Piccolo the Namek, the green guy, for those of you who are dumb and don't know what Dragon Ball Z is. He goes to Pepper Town. I think it was Pepper Town he goes to. Anyway, he's walking to the town, and there's just clothes laying everywhere. And, it's quiet, dead quiet. You can hear, like, at one point you hear dripping, and it shows, like a faucet or something dripping, and then there's a shadow passing by, and there's this, like, monster shape that walks by. And then you see more clothes, and it's eerie. And then finally you see this gigantic green, like, leech-like bug monster. And that's what Cell was at the time. And there's a guy that he's holding on to. And there's the guy, and he's like, help me, I'll give you money. I'll give you whatever you want. And then Cell takes its tail and sticks it into this guy and, like, drinks him. And so the whole thing about Cell was Cell would get away from them. Like, the heroes would come in, try to fight him, and he'd disappear. He'd go to another town and then absorb. They called it absorbing, but he would basically, like, drink them with his tail, and all that would be left of their clothes. And there were children's clothes floating over, women's clothes. I mean, it's just no one was safe. And it was terrifying. Like, at one point I remember walking home being, it could happen. This could really happen. There could be a gigantic biomechanical android bug thing that walks around and absorbs people. And yeah, I had a really active imagination as a kid. Just want to throw that out there. But yeah, that was something that really spooked me growing up. So that was the honorable mention. But my final piece, and that's something that while doing this, and I was like coming up with my things beforehand, and I really wish I didn't think about it again. So I think it's still going to bother me. But it's called Harold. When you were growing up, did you read Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that the one where, like, they had the the ribbon story where, like, the lady, like, always had a ribbon around her neck? And
yeah, and then she untied it and she was a ghost after all that time. But the story that scared me the most, and I believe it's, like, I remember being a kid and being, like, forever long, but it was, like, 3 or 4 pages long. But it was about Harold. It's a short story, and it's about an evil scarecrow by the same name. So there were two farmers that were on this abandoned farm. They had cows and stuff like that, and they were like a one-room shack. Well, they one day created a scarecrow, put a bunch of bags together, and they called it Harold. And because they hated, there was another farmer nearby named Harold, and they hated him, so they made this scarecrow and called it Harold. And they would do mean stuff to it, like throw food at it, or just like be mean to it for their enjoyment. And one day they noticed that it grunted, and they look around like, what was that? And like, I think it grunted. And no, it didn't. This was just a bug inside of it. Forget it. And then eventually they're noticing it gets bigger, or it starts to shift, and they get freaked out. And then one day it gets up and then walks out and then climbs on the roof. And so they're freaked out and they go, we got to go now. So they grab their 2 cows, they run back, and they're leaving the house. And the farmers are like, oh crap, we left something. I don't remember what they forgot, but they had to draw straws. The person who had the short straw had to go back and get it and then catch up with the other. And so they drew straws, and one of the farmers obviously got the short one, said, okay, I'll go get it. I'll be right back. Ran to the house, and the guy waited. Nothing happened. So he turned back to kind of go see if he could meet up with the other farmer. And then there's Harold on top of the roof, and it has skin that's drying. So it skinned him alive. And I read that as a 4th grader. All my terrifying things happened when I was in 4th to 5th grade. But yeah, that was the freakiest thing because it was a children's book and it talked about an evil scarecrow that came to life and skinned someone. It was literally Pinocchio mixed with Saw. No, that's a lie. It was a slasher Pinocchio. I mean,
It's Buffalo Bill.
yeah. No, I mean, it was just absolutely terrifying at the time. And I think it is still terrifying. I think another cool thing that we should do, next Halloween, or we'll do a better build up to the Halloween season. We'll get these old books and we'll read it. Read spooky stories in the dark podcast.
We'll dictate stories to your viewers.
Yeah. Nothing has to do with Batman or any superhero thing. We're just reading old children's ghost stories. I want to ask you a quick question.
I think it'd be interesting to find like old timey stuff because like if you look back at those like early 1900s photos, those costumes are freaky.
Yeah.
Like it's literally like a burlap bag with like blood dripping out it sort of stuff, and like they found that scary. And like for anybody that's, I guess nowadays they would find that like demented and probably burned at the stake sort of stuff.
Well, it's not even that. It's the thing that we find scary now is what they were like, oh, that's adorable. Like those dolls. Like I had a girlfriend when I was in high school who had, what are they called? The porcelain? Is that what they're called? Dolls?
I guess porcelain.
Yeah. And so she had one, and it was just the freakiest thing. And so sometimes I would mess with her by, like, before I'd leave or something like that, or if she was in the bathroom, I would just shift it slightly or turn because it was still in a box, so she was afraid of it. And her mom kept it in her closet, and so sometimes I would just shift it ever so slightly, and I'd move, and I'd go, it's not in the same place. And she would look up, and she'd go, no, you're just messing with me. And then she would sit there and look, and I remember one time she took a picture with her phone, and I would just keep, like, moving it every time I was there, and then she's like, look at this. She's, like, flipping for her phone. Well, it was not swiping. It was, like, an old flip phone. She was, like, going down the dial, and I was like, look at this. And it's, like, where I had moved it slightly, and she is, like, going berserk, and she's like, it's alive. We need to burn it. Like, we have to wait for my mom to be gone. She had this whole plan about how we were going to get rid of it so that her mom would let her, like, get rid of this evil, demented doll. And, we're not dating anymore.
Did you ever tell her what was going on?
No, never. And she doesn't listen to this podcast, so take that. But yeah, I don't know what she ever did with it.
I guess no one ever called you Petty.
Yeah, or Pettiford.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you said you liked Goosebumps, right?
Yeah.
So.
And Animorphs.
And Animorphs. Ooh, good pull. I haven't
know.
thought about Animorphs in a long time. I wonder if we could. They obviously aren't streaming anywhere, I don't think.
I don't think so.
Maybe you can get on Amazon. Because I know like the first episode is like an hour-long like special event. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we should find that. That'd be kind of interesting to do. Because I know they had all the books, and then like I never read them, but I loved looking at the cover because the covers were so cool of them shifting back and forth.
Did you ever flip to the books and it's like human and then animal, and you can either flip forward or flip backwards?
Mm-hmm. Well, books were so cool back in the day. Now they're just dull and boring. But no, so out of the Goosebumps series, what was your favorite story in it?
I kind of like the Horrorland ones.
Okay. I'm not familiar with Horrorland.
Where it's like, I think it centers around this one family or maybe a handful of families where they go to these amusement parks. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's monsters running it that you find out after the fact. But they're like, oh, excellent costumes. And then it starts getting like more demented, and then they like have to figure out how to escape, sort of stuff.
Okay. There was one, I think he was, he ate beetles or bugs, and he was in the library. Maybe it was the librarian that turned into a monster or something like that and ate. I don't know. I just remember these like flashes in my head of seeing this thing on TV and being terrified of it.
There's one where it was like pseudo Sixth Sense, where it's like the ghost next door, and so it's like this kid has like a friend kid, and they eventually figure out that's a ghost. Mm-hmm. So.
No, shoot. The one I really liked, so it was about werewolves. It was like a special event on Fox Kids. So there was a special Goosebumps event. It was a 2-parter, and it was like a kid was visiting his aunt and uncle or something like that, and he was like, okay, and they're like, oh yeah, there are, stay in at night, don't go outside. And he met this girl, and they were really close, but at night he couldn't figure out why they would lock him in. And he's looking over, and like werewolves are out there, and the uncle and aunt turn into werewolves. And the idea is like they put the skin on or they put on like costumes and they become werewolves. And I just remember being freaked out by it. Like that was my favorite one. I haven't seen it in forever. I don't know where to find it. I think Goosebumps are on Netflix or something like that. They are? Okay. But yeah, that's the one I really want to see again. And then there's Slappy. Is that the Chucky version of? Yeah. Chucky, or not Chucky, Slappy 3, Night of Living Dolls. Yep. So, I mean, it had his own franchise. And they made that movie with Jack Black in it. Everyone flipped out when Slappy was in it. I was like, like when I was in the theater, I remember all these little kids like freaking out, like, "Oh my gosh!" And it was like, "Shut up! You don't know who that is." Okay, so that kind of wraps up our story time. But I want to tell you one more story.
All right.
This is actually a real life event that happened yesterday. It's not scary. I just wanted to share it. So I'm at Joann Fabrics with my mom. We're getting stuff.
That's scary enough.
We're getting costumes and everything, and there is a girl behind us, a girl and her boyfriend, and like
that is eyeing the bolt of fabric that's in your hands. She's like, "That's the last one."
And then she freaks out.
I really wanted that Dalmatian fleece.
We should have done as Cruella de Vil. That is genius, and actually have her with the coat. But no. So we're in line, and the girl behind us, and this is how she was talking. She was talking to her boyfriend or two friends, and it's like, "Okay, listen, guys. I swear, I am like the biggest Nightmare Before Christmas fan. Like, I literally am at Hot Topic all the time. I have a backpack. I have the gloves. I mean, you won't find anyone who is more of a fan than I am. Did you know that the Oogie Boogie was actually a guy who was skinned alive? And then it was like, and Jack Skellington was someone who was, actually the true story is he was buried alive and then burnt and his skin was taken off. And I was sitting there with my mom thinking, she was just on a Wikipedia thread, or like some kind of fan thread, and like read all these like fan theories. And so she's going on and on, and at one point my mom's like, just ignore them, don't say anything, because sometimes I'm like want to correct people. And so she goes, and so like honestly, I think I like Corpse Bride, but easily The Nightmare Before Christmas is my favorite Tim Hortons movie.
And Tim Hortons?
And
the donuts and coffee movie.
And I turned and I could see my mom eyeball. I'm like, don't do it. And I went, it's Burton. It's Tim Burton. And then she goes,
like Batman.
And she goes, oh, yeah. Sorry, I don't know what I was saying. And my mom went, like, hit me and went, don't geek shame her. And I was like, okay, fine, it's whatever. And so we're laughing to each other. And then the girl keeps going. And she's like, and she's talking about what she's going to make. And then she goes, I like all the movies, but I think I want to start getting into the Stephen King books. And then my mom goes, Stephen King? You mean Stephen King? And she goes, oh, I think it's based on where you come from. It might mean different things. Like, no, it's Stephen King. Shut the hell up.
Ask his mother how to pronounce his name.
So my mom, I was like, so are you geek shaming her now? And so we said,
you should have pulled your inner Walter White. Say my name.
Yeah, say the name right. But no, so it was just funny, and they had to have been like maybe juniors in high school. But yeah, it was a hot mess.
You should have asked the girl, well, why isn't he the Sandman? Why does he have to be someone who's skinned alive? Why can't he just be the Sandman that gives you bad dreams?
Mm-hmm. And I mean, or Jack Skellington, like it was like you fell on these threads. I mean, it wasn't even like the idea that Corpse Bride was the prequel to The Nightmare on Elm. Like it goes Frankenweenie, Corpse Bride, and then Nightmare Before Christmas. And I was like, that was a believable thing. But no, you fell down some kind of weird... It's like the idea that the Rugrats... Have you heard that theory? That like... Yeah, that this is all in Angelica's head. Angelica is like a schizophrenic child or an adult who, Tommy was a stillborn. It was just all this stuff. And you're just like, why would you like...
That is like... Have you read the Thomas the Tank Engine ones?
No.
So, I mean, did you watch Thomas the Tank Engine? So,
just as a kid.
So with... I guess George Carlin and Ringo Starr. So like when they go like to the island of Sodor sort of stuff, there are instances where do you remember the episode where the engine like had just got new paint, didn't want to get out in the rain and ruin it sort of stuff, and so they put like bricks up in front of him and took the tracks away.
Percy, yeah.
So that means he's stuck in there, never to be let out. He's stuck in there to die or
Yeah,
train
rust.
die, and to never be able to get out again, sort of stuff. And then the ones where like they're like, oh, don't go under that bridge, you're too tall. Fuck you, everyone. And so the train goes in and gets stuck. They lop it off and make it a chicken coop sort of thing.
Yeah, you're right. It's terrifying.
Or how Diesel's the only Diesel, and he's always like shamed because he's not a steam engine.
Yeah,
And
diesel shaming.
I know Sir Topham Hatt's like the I think he's referred to as like the small pudgy dictator or something like that. But it's like stuff like that. It's like, oh, this is kind of nihilistic.
Yeah. No, it just there was all those funny little theories that you hear about. There was another. Oh shoot, not Hey Arnold. So the idea, and I think this was actually supported, but like, so the what was it, Pigeon Man?
Okay.
So you remember those episodes where he meets the Pigeon Man, and he communicates with pigeons better, and then Harold and the others, like when he takes Pigeon Man down to like meet people, and then meanwhile the bullies destroy the pigeon coop. He comes back and goes, "This is why I don't understand people. I understand pigeons." And then Arnold's watching him, and he jumps off, or not jumps off. Then the pigeons like pick him up and carry him away, and they're like, "Yeah, he jumped off. He killed himself." And this was Arnold's young mind, explaining the suicide. Yeah. Then you have like Helga Mataki. Helga's mom was obviously an alcoholic, I think it was alcoholic, depressed alcoholic. Her dad was abusive, and then you have Arnold and his stuff. But Chocolate Boy was a child of addiction, and it was just like those other ones I didn't believe. Like the Rugrats one, forget all that. This one was like, oh, you know what? I think that actually is what this was. They kind of went in on everybody. Everyone had a different issue, or a different, psychosis kind of thing. And it was like, yeah, this is what happens in the city.
What about, I'm sure you've heard this, but like The Little Mermaid, The Frozen, and there's a third movie that like
Tarzan
that like makes a triangle.
Yeah.
Where like the girl's parents from Frozen obviously perish, and the Little Mermaid's like ships that they find like
are theirs,
and then like they were on the way to like the Tarzan and Jane's wedding sort of thing.
Oh no, I had it that they were.
There's a third one that's like in that like Nordic region where.
Oh, I thought it was that they left there. The ship crashed, and when the ship crashed, it went down and sunk. The parents then got on the island and then had Tarzan, and then were killed by the jaguar. That's the story that I heard.
I think there's a different one where it's like Tangled or one of the other ones where like
Tangled is involved.
They went to the wedding and then they were coming back, and that's when their ship sank, and that's what you see in Little Mermaid.
Okay, yeah, because you see a cameo of those characters. Here's another episode idea: cartoon conspiracies. All right, well, wow, this is the first time I've actually been under an hour for an episode.
I think you're going to start not inviting me back because we just tangent off.
Yeah, that way we go down that rabbit hole and keep going. But no, so it was nice to have you into the haunted, spooktacular studio for a moment to go over some scary ideas, things from our past. Nightmares on Memory Lane. It's a play on Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, until the next episode I'm invited to, I'm just going to go back into the bedroom that I usually sleep in here.
Yeah.
Just wheel me out whenever it's my time to come back on.
Well, actually, we have a couple of cool things planned for the future. So this podcast might actually start to pick up with more of a structure. We might have an idea where we're taking it. It took us a year and a half, but things are coming. I want to point out for those of you who listen and actually follow us on our social media. So like Facebook, it's TokenNerd00, and there's Token_Nerd on Facebook and Instagram. For those of you who follow us on those, we will be having a Token Nerd giveaway courtesy of Tenacious Toys. So stay tuned and see what we post that we'll be giving away. So that kind of stuff's coming up soon. Don't forget, if you're listening to us on Podbean, check us out on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, listen to us on Podbean. Ben, where can people find you at on the social medias?
Urban Vinyl Daily on the Instagrams and the Facebooks and the Twitters. might find hilarious too, is that it's been deemed the MCU's funniest movie so far. And then within the Yahoo article, they're like, even funnier than Deadpool. And in the comments, someone was like, you do know that Deadpool is Fox. It's like MCEU in the expanded universe. It was like, and you win, sir.
Good job. But no, so I don't know. From what I've talked to them, they're excited, but everyone's kind of like, give me some more of that Black Panther. I need that Black Panther really badly.
Black tar.
But I do want to see, I don't know, I think a better focus on Hulk would be kind of cool. The spectacles of what they're trying to do with Ragnarok sound really cool. So I think they're excited. I can't speak for them. Listen to their podcast. Find out what they think.
World War Hulk without a movie.
Yeah. Let's see. Today is the 24th, so this comes out on the 25th. Thor Ragnarok comes out on November 3rd.
Sure.
Ollie could come out anytime now.
I know.
Coming soon.
I gave you the advanced knowledge to put your bets back to put your bet back on the table.
Yeah, I don't even know what we bet. I have to listen to the episode again. I don't think we did bet anything.
We didn't bet anything.
No.
You were just wagering for your own posterity.
Yeah. Bragging rights. How about this? It has to be Oliver Anthony.
We've already settled on a middle name.
All right, what's the I'm gonna guess. What's the first letter of it?
T.
Timothy.
No.
Thomas.
Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Woo! All right, folks, I am amazing.
How many T names are there? Like Thaddeus, Thelonious.
Like,
Tyler.
joke's on you. Yeah, and then he goes to Tyler. Thaddeus. Tyler. All right, folks. Like I said, stay tuned on our social media. We will be having giveaways. Check out UVD. Check out the Real Film Geeks. We'll hopefully be having more stuff coming up and on a regular schedule, as I keep saying every time we do this.
And I
Something's
promise
gonna
not
happen.
to be on every one of them.
Yeah, but we will be posting pictures from Disney this week and into next week. So the Mickey Not So Scary Halloween Party, I will be posting videos and pictures.
Make sure to get a picture with Ariel.
Yeah, I see what you did there. We'll talk. We'll explain that story in February. All right, folks. As always, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Ben the guest.
Stay spicy, my friends.
Hey everyone, this is Travis Likens from Token Nerd Podcast, and I'm here today to tell you something about sponsorship. That's right, Token Nerd now has a sponsor. The fine folks at TenaciousToys.com, your source for designer toys, pop vinyl, original art, and more, are now our sponsor. And guess what? As a part of that, you can get 10% off your next order at TenaciousToys.com by entering the code TOKEN10 at checkout. That's right, 10% off. And not only are they giving you this code, they're also going to be sponsoring many of our Token Nerd giveaways in the next coming months. So make sure to follow us at Token_Nerd on Instagram to catch our latest giveaways.